Now, what did you think of that? Because I was absolutely shocked. You don't see this every day. I must say a couple of things about that interview actually, because I never actually commented on it before. Well, hello there, internet. Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? How are you doing? So, 2022 was an absolutely life changing year for me and this channel. And in this video, I'm going to share my top 5 favorite moments from the videos I've made in 2022, because we've had some very interesting characters over the last year, and I've got lots of memorable moments, but I just picked 5 for this one. So let's get into it. And coming in at number 5 is an interview I did way back in January of 2022, and I interviewed Ryan from the channel Ryan and Mo Life in Bamboo. I'll give you a bit of a background to that story before I play the clip. So basically, I arrived in Koh Chang, myself and Noon arrived in Koh Chang after traveling from Bangkok on a Saturday afternoon. I think it takes about 6 hours from Bangkok to get to Koh Chang. We just arrived in our hotel and put my bags down and just lying on the bed and opened up YouTube. All of a sudden, I see Ryan is doing a live stream, and he's on Koh Chang. And I said, oh my God, we're both on the same island together. I mean, this is a perfect opportunity. So I sent him a message. He told me the name of his hotel. It turns out it was literally right across the road from where we were staying. So I just went straight over there, introduced myself, shook his hand, and kind of gave him that Irish charm and said, listen, any chance of an interview? And he said yes. And we sat down and we did the interview. And the part I'm going to play for you now is the part where Ryan talks about the hero's journey. Here it is.
In the old days, I was in the nightclub business. And I started my own kind of little marketing company for nightclubs. And they hired me in kind of a corporate role. And I was only in my early 20s. And I was in Cambridge running the Fez Club in Cambridge. And I was in the office one day and it just occurred to me, it's like, I'm so young in the corporate world that I'm starting my career now. And this is going to be it forever. You know, if you really get deep in the corporate world and take on a career, that's going to be it. And I was like, no, I'm not ready for that. You know, I want to go and live my life first. I want to have some adventure. So I said to my colleague, you know, I'm going. And she said, will you get me a tuna and sweet corn sandwich? Because she thought I was going to Tesco for lunch. And I said, no, I'm going. She said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Thailand. And I just walked out of the job. And it was this weird pull, just this random pull to say like, you know, F it, let's just go. And it was that calling, you know, that calling that I think that many people have. I think that every human being has that calling to just go on an adventure. It's the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. It's the Hobbit leaving the Shire. It's something within all of us that has that call to say, you know, I don't just want the normal. I don't just want to do the same thing over and over again. I don't want to be part of somebody else's story. I want to carve my own story. I want to go and do something unique and different. And the wanderer sets off on your journey if you've got the balls to do it, I guess.
Now, I thought that was really amazing. I could really relate to Ryan when he was saying that, because I remember I left Ireland when I was 23 on my own, went to Thailand, never looked back. And yeah, so when he was saying that, just that story, you know, was giving me those, when the cameras were rolling, I was getting goosebumps. So yeah, the hero's journey. I think we all have a journey in our lives. I do think maybe sometimes you take multiple heroes' journeys. Maybe I have another one coming up in this year. I kind of feel maybe I do. And it was that interview that actually really kicked off the channel in 2022. That was what kind of like gained me a lot more momentum. I got, you know, new subscribers. I got decent views on the video and just put me on that upward trajectory. And that leads me on to number 4. So coming in at number 4, a moment I will never forget, an interview I'll never forget, was Loy Machedo and the story about how he met his Thai wife. It's a very interesting story. It's a story you're not going to hear every day, and here it is. And how did you meet her?
Same, Thai Cupid. In her case, it was very simple. Because I went through all this drama of asking questions and asking and trying to get to know them, and they giving me all these perfect answers. I'm one a good man, good heart, hardworking, values, God, and this and that. When this girl popped up online, I was just typing. The first question I asked her, do you want to marry, yes or no? She's like, huh? I said, do you want to marry, yes or no? And she was like, like, is this the first question? Do you want to marry? Yes or no? I was saying, yeah, I want to marry. Go get your mom and dad. I want to speak to them. And
Is this really how this happened?
This, you can check on my YouTube channel. This is exactly what happened. Okay. And she's like, my mother and father are not here. Go get your aunt, someone. Her elder sister was there. She said she would come in after a few hours. I said, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to her. So she got her on the phone. I said, I want to marry a Thai girl, have a family, have a child. Okay, simple girl. She looks average. She's okay. So, what do you need from my side? Saying, oh, we need to know you, and you need to know. Yeah, whatever you need to know, just ask me. What do you want? No, are you a good man? That you can never figure out. Okay, you at least take time and take 6 to 8 months to 1 year, chat with each other, talk. I said, I can chat with you and have 3 girls in my bedroom right now, chat with you and go to a bar girl, chat with you and go to a massage parlor. And when I'm chatting with you, I can show a decent side and then do all my jing bang, which almost all the men do. Okay. And I've done it. I was a butterfly. They call it a butterfly. I was a playboy before. I enjoyed with enough and more women. I'm fed up and tired. I just want a housewife. I want a child. I want a happy family. If she's serious, fine. Otherwise, bye-bye. I'm not interested. She was shocked. The girl is shocked. And like, okay, when can you come down? After how many weeks? I'll book the ticket today itself. It was night, so obviously I had to book the next day. Within 3 days, after meeting her, within 3 days, we decided on the date of marriage. Within 1 week, we got married. And that was it.
Now, what did you think of that? Because I was absolutely shocked when I heard that. Even in the interview, I was like, Loy, what's going on? Like, this is not kind of normal. You don't see this every day. So, yeah, that was really shocking. And I must say a couple of things about that interview, actually, because I never actually commented on it before. I found the whole interview with Loy to be, it was very interesting, it was like a back and forth exchange between the two of us during the interview. I mean, Loy has a very strong character and a strong presence. And when we did the interview, it wasn't a battle, but it was, I very much had to be aware of what he was saying, and he was very much aware of what I was saying, and it was an exchange. We're going back and forth a little bit. Off camera, Loy is a very inquisitive person. He asked me lots of questions about Ireland and my life and stuff like that. A lot of comments in the comment section of that video kind of were saying that Loy was narcissistic. And now I don't know, whatever, narcissistic or whatever, but I just had a coffee with him before we did the interview. And I found Loy to be straight talking guy, inquisitive guy, a guy who is always learning. When he was looking at me, he was reading me. I don't know what it was, but when he was looking at me, I could say, okay, Loy, he wants to learn something from me or whatever. I just got that opinion off him. He's one of these guys that's continuously learning and improving all the time. Now, number 3. What can I say about number 3? Chris Parker. You all know him, retired working for you, Chris Parker. And, Chris's story about how he created a business from an opportunity with the Red camera, and how Chris was able to process the SD card off the Red camera when no one else was. And here's that story, because I thought that was super interesting.
When the position that I did find myself in, a position called video assist, and at the time there was some new technology that, like wireless handheld monitors and some funky stuff that didn't exist in the industry. I was there at that time of digital technology kind of making its way, making serious inroads, and everyone used to say, man, you guys always bring the bling to set. And so when me and my 2 buddies started the company, we're like, let's just call it bling. And go from there. And as a reminder to not take it too seriously.
That word bling, I mean, that was big in the 90s. I remember that when I was growing up as a kid, they were like bling bling, and everyone had big rings and stuff.
Our thing was bling, bling. Exactly, it was bling bling.
Yeah.
And our thing was we took away the second bling. That was for us at the time, because this was the 90s, and so it was all bling bling was a new term, and we're like, let's call it bling bling, and then it was like, no, just one bling. Let's just call it bling, and that was it, man.
We need to tell anyone who doesn't know, you were in the film industry. That's what you got involved in, and you actually grew to a pretty big organization. Tell us what you were doing. There was a moment in your life, because I did the research on this, that everything worked out well for you, and it was set you off on this big, long road to success. So tell us about that. Tell us how you grew your company.
Yeah, well, it started, again, without these preconceived ideas of having to get to the finish line before running the first 25 meters of the race, and the first 25 meters of the race was going on set. And I find like there's a difference between and this is just an old guy talking like old guys do, but there's a difference between them young kids and us old guys, and to me that difference is not rushing. So I went on set as a video assist guy. It was all 35 millimeter film, 100%, just commercials in Toronto, silly commercials. Great industry though, I love that part of the business. And as I got into that, I did 10 years of that. Like, again, no fast forward buttons, man. I didn't think I'll do this for a month and then I'll take over the world. No, I did that for 10 years, a decade straight, 1,000 days on set. And during those days, towards the last 5 years, digital technology started to rear its head. And I could see that this was going to change. This was going to be a paradigm shift in the whole industry. And it was going to go from analog 35 millimeter film to digital. And I just started geeking out over it. I loved that stuff. And so on one hand, I'd sit on set and do my job as good as I could. And then I'd start learning. I'd use the internet to learn, because there was no one who knew what to do with digital technology at the highest professional level. And so I just spent hours every day learning about that. And at the same time, I was playing with the toys that I was lucky enough to have access to. So I was a rave visuals VJ. You know, the big raves had come to Toronto. This is in the crazy rave days of Toronto, and I was a crazy raver. And so I started doing visuals because we had access to all this equipment, and we got experimental with this stuff. We just started playing with it, and that made me realize that there was all kinds of cool things you could do with technology that people weren't really doing. And so fast forward to the real moment in time when the Red camera came out, the first digital 35 millimeter sized sensor came out, and nobody had a solution for it. So I fly down to LA for one of the first presentations. There's a room of 50 people there. I didn't know who they were. I thought they'd be 50 people like me. I had my little makeshift processing station. I wasn't a shooter. I was never going to shoot the video. What I realized was there was 49 people who wanted to shoot video on this new camera, fill up a card, and 49 people who had no idea what to do with it next. And I was sitting in the back of this little seminar with my little makeshift computer setup. I said, bring it back here. I can process that out and send you guys all home, give it a little color. And there was a lineup at my desk. And I flew back to Toronto, and I said to my buddies, oh, there's a business here, fellas.
And a bit of background about that one. The interview with Chris, what can I say? But I first met Chris back in December 2020. We did a video together with another YouTuber, Global Travel Mate. We all kind of got on our bicycles and cycled around Bangkok, Talat Noi in Bangkok. Super cool day. Really, really enjoyed it. And first time I met Chris, and really interesting guy. Loved his story about his editing and everything. That he had a lot of energy about him. Didn't see him again until April 2021, and at this stage I had kind of I had done a few interviews and I kind of felt comfortable doing it. And I had a couple of beers with Chris and Jerome, global travel mates. We all sat down and we were having a couple of beers, and we were literally having a beer and talking about doing an interview when we all got messages on our phone. There was another wave of COVID-19 in Bangkok, and there was literally a lockdown happening from literally that moment that we were sitting in the bar. It was like everything was locking down. I remember Chris saying to me, Pete, we'll do the interview. And didn't happen because of the lockdown. So I had to wait 11 more months, and I hadn't seen him since that April 2021 until March 2022, where I actually, to get that interview, I had to make a whole other video where I reviewed the Space Grapau. And I made that video because I knew Chris would watch it and then he might agree to do the interview. So I made the video. Chris commented on it and said, we'll do the interview. So I jumped on a plane and we flew to Samui just specifically for that interview. We shot that interview over 3 hours. We just had the cameras rolling and we were drinking Leos as we were filming. And towards the end, after 3 hours of Leos, you can imagine what we were like at the end, And when I was interviewing Chris, I at this stage kind of knew. Well, I knew we were leaving. I just didn't know exactly when, but I knew we were going to go. I knew that it was Thairish Times was leaving Thailand. And I remember just was a point in that interview at the very end when I was interviewing Chris, and I think I had sunglasses on at this stage. And I remember having this thought in my head that like, that's it now. It's kind of like mission accomplished in my mind with because I've interviewed this guy. He's on the top of his game. He has a history in film and all that. And here I am sitting there interviewing him. He had a big subscriber base. And I just felt I've taken Thairish Times to like another kind of level. And I remember just thinking, whatever happens from here on out, it's done. Thairish Times, tick that box, mission accomplished. Like, started a YouTube channel, met some very interesting people. Because you can imagine, I was only a fan. I'm only a YouTube fan. So I was watching YouTube the same as you're watching YouTube and all these people going around Thailand. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there interviewing them and I was just like, this is crazy. And I remember just thinking, that's it. Whatever happens from here on out. I interviewed Chris. I met Ryan. Like, at this stage, I'd interviewed other people as well. I was like, it's finished now. It's done. And I remember getting a bit emotional at the end. And Chris will know exactly what I'm saying because we filmed it, but we might not release it. Well, maybe I'll release it someday. Who knows? Anyway, coming in at number 2, we have Paul Wallis, a guy from England who spent 37 years in Thailand and is a masterful storyteller. In the interview with Paul, he tells a story of how a tramp ended up changing his life. And here's that story, because when I heard that, the hairs on my neck stood up.
I kind of had this idea to travel, and it seemed to come along at just the right time. I sat in a pub garden on a Sunday morning. I'd be 17 and a half, and this tramp, guy, homeless guy, big beard, not the cleanest of clothes, came in with his beer, and there's lots of tables on this lovely lawn, and he came over, he said, do you mind? No, sit down. A bit taken aback, and he went on to tell me about how he ran away from home at the age of 13 and hid on this container ship and went off to Jamaica and spent some time there, and then he went to Bali and married this fishing girl, and then he went to India and he did all these things. And for about 2 hours I'm listening to this. And he looked at me and he said, there's a terrible, terrible pain when you get old. What's that then? He said, it's not cancer or anything like that. He said, some people, when they're on their deathbed or their time is near, they suddenly get hit with this realization that they didn't really do anything with their life. They never put their foot to the floor. They never explored the possibilities. He said, and when that hits you, he said, it goes down to the bone and even down to the soul. And his parting words to me were, don't sit and wait to see what life has to offer you, young man. You take life by the ankles and you shake it upside down and see what's in there. And that kind of inspired me to get a passport and go.
Paul's a good storyteller, isn't he? The background behind that was Paul contacted me, and at the time I was on Samui, actually. I just finished interviewing Chris, and then Paul contacted me. I just felt like I got this good run of luck. I had all these great people lined up, all in a really short space of time. Paul contacted me. I remember I was lying by the pool, and he said, I remember I was like that, you know, real kind of tired and lying by the swimming pool, and Paul contacted me, and he's like, Pete, I would love to be interviewed by you. And I said, oh yeah, okay, well, what's your story? And he said, Pete, I've got a story. Wherever I go, I spend all my money. And he said, what do you mean? And he said, I just travel around the world and I just spend all my money. And every time I spend all my money, the universe always seems to look out for me when I'm completely broke. And I was just thinking, that sounds a bit wacky. He sounds like a character. If he can talk on camera as good as he can talk on the phone, we might have an interview. And the rest is history. I met Paul at his home, way on the outskirts of Bangkok. And as soon as I saw him, I said, well, he sounded like a character on the phone. He looks like a character. We could potentially have a big interview. And the first minute of that, my eyes lit up and I was just thinking, oh God, this is going to be a very, very big interview. And my top moment of 2022 was probably the most emotional moment of 2022 for me and Noon, was when we left Thailand and we made that video announcing that we were leaving Thailand, and the moment where we left Noon's family in Suvarnabhumi airport in Bangkok, flew to Dublin, and then met my family, who I hadn't seen for 3 years. And that's the moment now I'm going to play for you.
If just for a minute I'd fall asleep and not dream about you. I hate to admit it, I'm out of ideas, I don't know what to do. Most of the times I think I'll make it through, but all that it takes is one image of you and it shivers. Nobody knows the way it shivers. Nobody knows. It hurts just a little when I'm with my friends and we drink till we're done. Yeah. So I can't remember how it would feel to wake up in that bed right beside you. All of the memories I tried to erase just comes back when I'm sober. I see that face and it's
Now, I haven't seen my mother and my father for 3 years. Let's go meet them.
It's cold and it's dark without you in my arms. Yeah, it shivers, it hurts.
You are so welcome.
Must be tired.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Huh? Shake hands, look. That's how we do it after 3 years in Ireland.
If just for a minute I'd fall asleep and not dream about you.
Yeah. Even thinking about that is emotional, you know, leaving friends, leaving family behind, moving across the world to a new country, not knowing how things are going to go, but just doing it. It's a range of different emotions. It was cool that actually was able to capture it online for everybody, not just myself, but for all you guys as well, just to show everybody. But it was hard. It wasn't easy. Even making that, editing that video was very emotional. I sat, my finger hovered over that button. If I click this button and put that video out there, is this the end of Thairish Times? What happens from here on out? I didn't know at the time, back in September. I had no idea. There have been so many great moments on this channel. I can't possibly do it all in one video. So do me a favor, leave your favorite moment or your favorite video in the comment section. I'm sure we'll have some interesting comments there. And I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Hit the like button, like the video, leave me a comment, subscribe. Thanks very much. And I'll see you on the next one. I've got some big ones lined up, folks. More coming. See you later.